Hi, welcome to SOISU P.O.V. Through this podcast, our effort is to educate you or get the right knowledge for your home building journey. In our previous podcast, we asked a very important question. Is interior designing a scam? It was a pretty interesting episode with Mr. Shavir Irani. And if you haven't seen it, you should go back and have a look. In this podcast, we're going to focus on a very important topic, which is sourcing. Because sourcing does not only have an impact over your overall project budgeting, but also has a profound implication on execution of your project. There are many questions that we need to answer, like customization versus standardization, product quality, what are the product parameters of product quality, what is the right vendor, what are some of the right flags, and how ultimately you build the set of right vendors around you. To answer this, we have someone with decades of experience in versatile projects from large urban planning, commercial corporate offices to corporate villas and luxury interiors. We have with us Mr. Samarth Das, who is the lead designer, architect, and urban planner at PKD, which is a firm based in Prabhadevi, Mumbai. So, hi, Mr. Samar, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Rohan. It's great to be here.
In fact, before I approached your podcast, when I was in your office, I was really intrigued your process and the approach towards vendor. We haven't met much, but
Yeah.
in whatever we have met and the thoughts that you have shared with me are very interesting and rare to know. And so I'm really honored. And I think a lot of people are privileged because a lot of people don't see you around. And
And
in fact, I'll tell you that PKDS does a lot of large projects. So I think getting insights from him, someone who is executing urban plans, large corporate offices, I think the challenges for them are multifold. So my first and simple question to you is,
yeah,
let's get on to basics.
right.
Today, when we see design is start to everything, right? What I see at Soisu with customers, we normally deal with more over retail customers for home buying, where we see that a lot of customization is added to the process. We understand that we like certain designs and we have space challenges, layout challenges, and so we have to customize. And also some of the ergonomics, like large, Italian pieces are not don't have suitable height or depth for Indian body, right? So, but still people prefer to do that, and then they do extreme customization. And what we have seen past for 2 years is the output that we derive after customization, 50% of the people are not happy. And the primary reason is because when you make a food that has never been made before, you're always in some sorts of surprise, right? So I always tell my customer, आप मारुति या कोई सेडान को लेके आधा फुट काटोगे तो वो हैचबैक बनेगी, then it won't be a sedan. So, in a large project basis, when you do customization, we do mock-ups, we do prototypes, and we have time. And you clearly define quality parameters. सबसे बड़ा बात तो कोई भी आके मुझे बोलता है भाई quality चाहिए. But no one defines what's quality. Like I feel quality is different for different projects and different to different people.
Right.
For example, a restaurant or a large office will have a very different quality parameter compared to a home, compared to a large public, utility project. So let's start with that. And I would like to know your thoughts on customization, standardization, and how do you go about while you're designing, what kind of selection and choices you should keep in mind, apart from aesthetics like
Yeah.
ergonomics or practicality or execution practicality.
Right. So that's a lot of questions, but I think we'll take it
Sure.
as the conversation flows. Um, so Rohan, of course, in terms of our practice, I would say we've been fortunate enough to work and build in many ways quite a unique practice because the variety of work that we do kind of delves into many fields of architectural and urban design. And we're fortunate enough to have built this over the last 46 years now through obviously the practice which was started by my father, and he's also still very actively involved.
Oh,
Um, but that has given us the opportunity to work on a variety of scales across different sectors of design. So today we're working on a large ambit of projects. I would say the only real field where we don't work on in terms of numbers of projects largely is residential interiors, which we've tried to stay away from a little bit. Having said that, we are working on several HNI bungalows where for our prime clients, we are also doing residential interiors. Um, in terms of the other side of the work, which is the corporate practice, I would say we're doing large scale corporate interiors. Right now, we have about around 8.5, 9 lakh square feet of corporate interiors,
Wow.
which is under execution based on designs that have been done by us. And over the last 4 or 5 years, we've kind of delivered close to 3 lakh square feet of corporate interiors.
Wow.
Um, so while we're doing large scale corporate interiors, we're also doing um, HNI villas, like I said. So the whole kind of scale quotient changes hugely. The quality quotient changes hugely. The aspirations change hugely in terms of design, but also in terms of cost. Corporate interiors are, of course, in itself quite interesting and exciting, um, because within a corporate interior also you have various different types of spaces that you obviously have to deal with.
Correct.
um, you have different users. Of course, we have the workhorse of any organization, which are the staff, for which you have the open office setups, which include workstations, you have cubicles, and then, of course, you have cabins within that space. And then, as you move up the sort of executive hierarchy and pecking order, even the specs of these cabins start changing. So you have regular cabins, but then you have cabins for CEOs. You move higher up, you have cabins for MDs and promoters and chairman level, spaces that we have to deal with. Even in terms of the workspaces, you have different categories of workspaces for these people.
Mm.
So you'll have conference rooms and small meeting spaces in the open office, but you'll also have conference rooms and large boardrooms for upper level management. Um, so within one project, you certainly have to work on these multiple parameters. And when we're working with these large corporates, cost is definitely something that they really pin you down on. Even though design aspirations are very high, at the end of the day, when you're working on scale, you have to be mindful of cost. Um, so again, because of the multiplicity and the variety of work that we're doing, that also allows us to have a lot of knowledge sharing across projects, across platforms, across different levels of design.
Correct.
And so the nitty gritties and the fine, qualities of design and ergonomics that we are kind of dealing with respect to HNI, sofas, chairs, work tables. We bring that knowledge obviously also into our corporate interiors where we're working on scale.
Sure.
So I would say that we've been learning and we continue learning. And every year we have very consciously ensured this knowledge sharing across teams, even within the office and across projects, so that as an overall practice, we are, paying the same amount of detail to different projects. Doesn't matter what kind of project it is.
Correct.
So that's been quite interesting. To give you an example, right now, just to say that, okay, we have two different types of projects that we're working on. We're working on a very high-end villa, residential interiors, and that includes the loose furniture. And then we're also working on a large corporate interior project. Um, for HNI villas, you generally end up in Italy, in Europe, um, you go to Turkey, you do also explore the American market, and then of late, I would say also explore China and Southeast Asia, including Bali.
Correct.
And Indonesia.
Mm.
Now, the kind of detail that we pay attention to with respect to that kind of furniture aspiration for an HNI client, we're visiting multiplicity of brands in Milan,
Mm.
doing probably 50 showrooms and 20 factory visits over like 10 days.
Mm.
And then you start appreciating what these uh, Italian legacy companies are bringing to the table,
Mm.
right? So you start noticing what they're focusing on. The big thing is, of course, ergonomics. The Italian market also, interestingly, over the last 5 or 6 years, has had a radical shift.
Okay.
They're catering a lot to the Middle East market.
Oh,
So you have a lot of people from Middle East in Italy looking for furniture. So Italian design and furniture design used to be a little bit more sleek. It used to be slightly narrower. It used to be less wide body, very elegant, of course. But now those companies are upgrading to larger furniture
wow.
because those are the clientele that they are catering to, which is kind of blurring the lines between the American market and the European market, which was distinctly different.
Correct.
American market used to have larger, bulky furniture, and Europeans and Italians had a little bit more sleek.
Sleeker.
But now the two are kind of blurring.
Sure.
And so sometimes we find it difficult to even deliver to a client now. When a client says, I want sleek, contemporary for Italian furniture, we have to go back and tell them that, we no longer have 850 depth sofas. The
Sure.
minimum depth sofas you're getting is 1 meter,
Wow.
1.1,
Wow.
1.15. And then the concept of multi-layering pillows and things like that come in. So you name it, the Minotis, the Puradas, the Divanis, uh, multiple companies, including Armani and Versace and all of that, Casina, um, Polyform, Flexform. Everything's changing. So I think the overall world market is also adapting and changing from that perspective. But I'm a stickler for ergonomics. I've also been, because of these kinds of projects, we're also getting into bespoke furniture design and production, which we've identified bespoke manufacturing facilities in Italy, for example, where sometimes when you look at a company like Henge in Italy, a sofa could cost 17 lakhs and upwards.
Sure.
Now, a lot of clients have aspirations for those designs, but maybe necessarily the project budgets don't permit that. So you identify bespoke furniture manufacturers who could give you the similar designs, but at reduced costs. So when you get into bespoke manufacturing, also then as an architect or a designer, you have to become that much more mindful and conscious of these nitty-gritties of design. These stalwarts of design companies that have been operating for upwards of 5 decades, 7 decades, 10 decades are obviously doing something right.
Sure.
So we also be very mindful in terms of customization, because like you rightly said, customization just opens a new Pandora's box.
Correct.
You're going to these companies for something that they are offering and for something that they have built a credibility for over the years.
Mm.
They have a brand that they have built
Mm.
because they're doing things right. They have a whole band of designers. If you go to their factories, you see these setups are backed up by design teams of upward of 40, 50 people who are only sitting and designing furniture.
Sure.
Now, do we want to enter that space and start dictating what we want them to do?
Hmm.
I think that's not the right approach. So
Correct.
even when clients approach us with this idea of customization, we have stayed away to say, at least with residential interior furniture, that we will limit customization to just factory bought product, I mean, our brand bought products or bespoke manufactured products, but we will not mess with the dimensions and the ergonomics.
Sure.
Um, Different clients have different requirements. Someone has a back problem. They like, let's say, more upright furniture. Someone likes being a little bit more laid back and a sense of informality, even in their formal sofas, which they put in their living rooms. So now, obviously, working with our furniture partners who help us identify over 100, 150 companies in Italy who manufacture furniture, we have now started categorizing different companies that would suit different clients and their requirements. But why I spoke about this so much is that then when you bring that to the corporate space, where let's say you have one overlap between the corporate and the residential, which is the idea of a sofa.
Hmm.
But now that sofa is also in a corporate setup. A
Correct.
CEO's cabin will have his workstation, I mean his main table. You'll have the visitors' chairs across the table, but you'll also have a two-piece or three-piece sofa with two armchairs.
Correct.
So that's where you start seeing that these overlaps in design start happening. So when you then start looking at sourcing that kind of furniture for the corporate space, you have very different companies that do that. And
Sure.
that's when we start looking more local
More local.
in terms of our sourcing. We have many companies that we've been associated with and who have been working with us for many, many years. But that's not to say that I start compromising on the quality of ergonomics. For me, it's very important to focus on design And I'm not just saying the look and feel of the furniture. I'm talking about the ergonomics and how much that chair wants you to sit on it.
Wow.
I should be able to sit on that chair for hours to do a phone call meeting or sit across the table and discuss with someone. Uh, these are the sort of backbones of daily office life, right?
Sure.
The chair that you sit on and the table that you work across. So that becomes very important for us to look at in terms of design. Most often in commercial led projects of scale, those do take a hit
Hmm.
in terms of the products that people are offering us today.
Hmm.
There's an approach कि अभी cost कम हो गया तो अभी now ergonomics भी कम हो जाना चाहिए. You have to kind of accept that, but I'm not ready to accept it.
Correct.
I don't think putting a plywood perpendicular to each other versus giving it an angle of 6 degrees for the back
Correct.
makes any difference to cost.
It
I think
doesn't.
it's a mindset and an approach.
And it's your design capabilities. like you said.
Exactly. And so, furniture manufacturers, whether locally or furniture agencies who are sourcing from China or the southeast of Asia to bring products here, have to be mindful of these things, right? I don't think, at least in our projects, we don't pass this under the carpet and
Carpet.
sort of brush it under the carpet and say that we'll compromise on the comfort of a chair.
Sure.
We don't want to do that.
Sure.
So, yes, so I've spoken about this a lot, but the idea is this cross sharing and knowledge sharing across projects helps us to uh, identify the right furniture even within these corporate spaces. And that I think we've been successful enough in doing because clients are obviously coming back to us, we're getting repeat projects, and we've managed to do this successfully. And we keep learning and
So I
improving.
caught one of your interesting lines. That is how much the chair wants you to sit on it.
Right.
I think that's a very, very good question to ask.
Yeah.
If you want a comfortable house, if you want a welcoming house, Soisu, when we started, and we did some market research, there's a lot of aspirational value for Italian brands and branded furnitures or bespoke inspired designs from these brands,
Yeah.
right? As I studied more and as I traveled, I have traveled more than 400 vendors
Mm.
and different brands in last 2 years. And I think I've sat on almost all kinds of sofas. And then what I realized at the end was exactly the ergonomics. Yes, aesthetics are important, but at the end of the day, if you can not sit for hours together, be comfortable, or it doesn't take away your muscle or muscle tension or stress that you collected, then there is no point of buying furniture. So what at Soisu we did was we started focusing more on ergonomics, and then we started also focusing on the design elements like sleeker arms, better looks, some of straight cut designs. So I've also explored the minorities and polychromes and polychromas. Number one, I think what people fail to understand from internet photos is these were never built for Indian homes, especially in cities. Maybe in tier two cities where you have large villas, you have the space to implement them. But say for example, World Towers or India Bulls projects or any of those projects where we have 3 or 4 BHK, we don't have the size to fit in these products. And when you cut them down, you are also not only compromising on ergonomics, but also on the aesthetics.
Right.
Both you are
Of
losing.
course.
So that we constantly try to educate people because see, when a new home buyer, I feel a lot of home buyers don't know these brands. It's we who tell them that these brands exist.
Right.
There is a Italy which exists, there is a China which exists, and then there is workshop or bespoke sources that exist. But the key question out of all, and thank you for sharing a lot. I loved how you connected your corporate and residential learning and how you took. And what I take from it is that what you're recommending is you have to limit customization beyond the scope, right? Because it does affect the quality, it does affect the execution. Like I get a lot of I have two set of customers. One come with a very fixed mindset that this is what my designer has shown, this is what we love, and this is what we should get. My people try to explain them that this is something may not suit your body. Regardless, it's a business. We all have to cater to our customers. So we order that, and when the final product comes, they are in for a surprise sometimes because it's not that we have not achieved the specification, they have defined the parameters, but they didn't have the right tools to foresee that it would affect the ergonomics in such a manner. So coming again to a little more specific question when it comes to customization, when in a snapshot you have answered that you can't go to just random people and customize. Like even a lot of factories in China, Turkey, Italy, they all work with standard designs. Even if we order a
Right.
specific type of brand inspired design in a particular size, वो बनाते ही नहीं है, because they themselves are worried about the quality, about the
Yeah.
safety of the customer. So my question again comes is that when you go in customization, for example, because still some people will, what are some of the quality parameters that you look at in a custom product?
So custom product again, I think it's honestly quite limited. It's not a very wide range of elements that we are looking at. Number one is of course the ergonomics. Like I said, that's very, very important. And you rightly said, if you cut down a piece of furniture, it loses its sense of scale, size, and thereby it's going to lose its comfort. In my opinion, honestly, customization should be limited to the kind of touch and feel. Do you like feeling leather? Do you like feeling satin? Do you like feeling, nabuk? Or do you like feeling a different kind of textured fabric on your hand? Versus what kind of fabric is actually going to look good on a back wrap of a chair.
So
You can't take a chair, like let's say you take um, any Poltrona Frau kind of chair, right? Some of the more contemporary designs have the idea of a back wrap leather, and then the inside weave is, let's say, a fabric. Now, that back wrap is not going to look good in fabric, right?
correct.
That's the reason why they have put it out. When a company like that puts out a product, believe you me, they have done their research and they've tried 20 versions of that product before they put it in the
Correct.
market.
Correct.
So you have to trust the designer. So there again, I would say customization should be limited to just selecting colors, but within the same kind of material choices that the company has actually made. Um, in terms of customization, yes, maybe the design of the legs that are holding the piece of furniture. Some people have they like bulky legs versus someone wants small legs. We're also looking at in a home space, for example, you're walking without footwear, right? Are you going to hurt yourself walking around a sofa because the leg is kind of too close to the edge and you're going to hit your toes and hurt them? Versus is the leg set off further inside, so you're never going to have that issue.
Correct.
Where do you find that balance between the location of the leg for support and stability of the furniture itself versus comfort to the user and safety of the user? So there's a kind of right now on a recent trip, I saw an Armani Casa bed, which literally looks like it's floating.
Wow.
Okay, but it's a beautiful design where the kind of base supports are almost a good 1 meter within the outside frame of the bed. But then the bed design complements that, right?
Correct.
It's like furniture design is also like structural design, like you design a building or
Absolutely.
I mean, it's about structure, safety, and then of course the comfort that comes with it. So I would say the second way of customization, the third parameter of customization, of course, would be, let's say, the density of the foam that you like,
Sure.
right? Even in Europe and every market, you have various grades of density of foam.
Correct.
What you use for the back, what you use for the base, they're different. And I think that is a very, very personal choice. Some people like sinking into a sofa and really feeling very, very comfortable. But then on those kinds of sofas, you also find that it's tough to get out of because you're kind of, if you're making two or three movements to just get off from a sofa, you know that you've compromised somewhere.
Yes.
Versus someone who feels a little bit more comfortable for a longer period of time with the sofa, which gives you a little bit more, or armchair that gives you a little bit more support and thicker density of foam. So I think it should be limited to these two or three things.
Right.
Not really starting to get into, oh, I want the back like 50 higher, or I want the armrest
Yeah.
to be 20
Yeah.
lower. Because let's face it, neither you nor even architects are not, unless you're really passionate about it and you have been working on that field, it's not your line of work. So
Absolutely.
leave it to the experts and leave customization to the minimum is my suggestion.
That's what when we give custom orders, a lot of manufacturers says कि भाई, you don't understand. You're saying that just change a small arm or change the head, but
Right.
it changes the entire dimension.
Right,
We have
right.
to not only recalibrate one part, but the entire sofa so that you have the
Correct.
right look, you have the durability and the sturdiness.
Correct.
But now I'll get to a little more complex question.
Yeah.
I have never been able to answer this. Maybe you can answer this for us. Is how do you value products in market? See, in Indian market, we are a very value driven consumer class,
Right.
right? we know price of everything, value of nothing. Honestly, that is what I have felt. So, as you gave a great example that all these Italian brands charge a bomb. 17 lakhs for a sofa by any standard is very expensive, right? A lot of customers ask me, अरे है तो सोफा ही, वही फोम गया है, वही लकड़ा गया है, वही स्टिचिंग है, वही फैब्रिक है. And so why 17 lakhs when a bespoke inspirational, vendor could provide the same at one third or maybe sometimes even less the cost. Like I have seen some of the inspirational designs which where the brand pricing maybe around 3 or 4 lakhs as retail, and I have seen in Surat for 30,000. So that creates a lot of confusion. And I really try to tell my customers that you have to identify how do you value everything.
Yeah.
Because if you don't and if you only focus on the price and the discounts, unfortunately that's a practice that has gone on for years as a marketing tool. कि आप 5 लाख की चीज को 10 लाख बोल के फिर उसको 70% कर दो, where we are losing sight of the value that we are actually trying to pay. So this is a very important question, and since you procure so much for various kinds of projects, how do you value products?
Yeah, so I think this is it's an outcome of, I would say, many years of work.
Hmm.
I don't think this is a simple question that a consumer who is looking to do their house, comes to buy a sofa, would be able to really do their own research and understand. But I think they would have to be educated
Sure.
very briefly, because they're not going to go into the kind of thesis that we would do on a product. But I think value, I'll give you a simple analogy. I mean,
Sure.
if you see our parents' homes and their parents' homes, uh, furniture is also associated almost like memorabilia, right? You see a cabinet in my grandmother's house, which they bought when they were 25,
Correct.
and today that cabinet is still standing there.
Correct.
Right? There's a value to that construction quality and the way that thing was made back then, which unfortunately over the years, even now, because of this incredible demand of quantity in the market and the huge variety of ranges of base products like plywood, MDF, particle board, all of that have come in to bring in economy of scale and cost. Uh, Eventually, it's about that, right? How you buy a piece of furniture today, like you said, from Surat for 35,000, is that going to last you 20 years? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to. It probably will start giving in like 3 or 4 years.
Correct.
Because finally, what is quality coming from?
Hmm.
As a designer, you start breaking it down, right? To the bare bones of the product is the structure. What kind of wood are you using?
Correct.
What kind of wood is, what is the density of that wood? Is it cured or not cured? Does it have any hint of moisture in it, or has it been cured well enough to be dry? What kind of joinery are you looking at? Good furniture does not use nails and screws.
Sure.
It's old carpentry details that are talking about, different kinds of joints that hold things in place. The second layer comes in. What kind of supports are you using? Are you using particle board? Are you using MDF? Are you using ply? There are 8 types of ply. You get ply for 50 rupees a square foot. You get ply for 220 rupees a square foot, which is marine grade, BWP, boiled at 72 hours, nothing happens, and it's termite proof.
Right.
So where are you going with your product and your quality check? To what depth are you going?
Sure.
Is a client buying a piece of furniture knowing that my furniture is susceptible to termites? That's the first thing we do in buildings. In building construction, we're doing termite control.
Correct.
Right? Because they can erode the backbone of a building as well as furniture within no time.
Correct.
But are clients and consumers aware of this fact?
Sure.
So is the Surat guy giving you marine ply of termite proof grade? Or is he giving you commercial ply which is not termite proof, which is not BWP and debonds within 3 years? The ply itself. So
Sure.
forget about what happens to your sofa. The structure starts giving way.
Absolutely.
That sofa is going to break.
Absolutely.
So I think quality for us comes from these types of things. So the vendors that we've been working with, of course, we know now over time, we've been to their units, we're seeing the kind of material they're using, not just the finished product, but what the backbone of that piece is. So we know that kind of nitty-gritty, and that's what helps us define what quality is. And then we stand for these vendors with our clients, because more and more, again, like I said, big corporate firms have their kind of big contract teams
Correct.
or procurement teams
Sure.
that are only there to bring the price down of a vendor.
Correct.
Because, and the way they will do that is they will get 6 other alternatives to the same piece that you
Correct.
said. Be like, we've got this 6 quote. Why should we go with a quote who is, let's say, L7 in terms of your technical bid? And yes, sometimes we lose that battle because we can't go with L7. If the
Correct.
client decides they want L1, we can't fight it. But at least we can impress upon these aspects and be like, okay, at least L1 don't consider because we've looked at this, it's
Sure.
not meeting the standard.
Sure.
At least L3, L4 in techno of, I mean, lingo of tender terms that I'm talking. So yes, it's a kind of back and forth battle.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I think you put it very well. And you suggested an approach of practicality mixed with experience, right? But I would like to share a point of view from a vendor, so someone who is in the business. Because I think people need a very simple approach or some sort of simple thumb rule. Unfortunately, there is no thumb rule. What you will need to use is common sense. So if I were to buy furniture, the way I would do my research is, so I would go to some, because there are very levels of quality.
Yeah.
You have something like Goregaon or very mass market products. Then you have a little premium showrooms, what you see in Prabha Devi, or
Yeah.
you see. Then you have a little more high end, which is like China
Mm.
or some Turkish
Right.
furniture. And then you have the extreme quality, which is the Italian quality, right? So I would first select what is the budget that I'm looking at,
Yeah.
and then I will see my similar group. I would segment them in group of quality A, B, C, D, and then I would group them to the pricing, and then I would just take an averages. I think working with averages works beautifully most of the cases.
Right.
And then I'll put a little logic that okay, if someone is giving me a chair for 30,000, but the same design is being offered at 1,20,000, the
Right.
price difference is 4x. Then I would try to put common sense that yeah, agar roughly यार ये material कितना होता है? Can you achieve this, transport this all the way from China here, still make a buck out of it,
Yeah.
and then sell it at 30K?
Yeah.
And if you buy it, am I going to get any sort of after sales service
Hmm.
or warranty? Because आपने बोले 30 लिया, but you don't intend to waste that entire 30,000, right? अब I tell my customers that if I'm going to give you what I sell for 2.5 lakh rupees for 80, 90,000, because a lot of people compare us to B1D or more of the traders and agents. Now the thing with agents and traders is whatever they quote is ex-factory cost. They don't inbuilt the service cost of logistics, customs, and here, and that is what creates a lot of confusion. When you factor in the cost, we are actually only 10-15% expensive, and the 15% that you are paying is your insurance for a better after sales service, because once you procure furniture from India or from China, the vendor knows भाई आप 5 साल नहीं मिलने वाले, especially for home buyers. At least for 5 to 10 years, I'm not going to see in the cycle. Maybe with corporate clients, we are more cautious because we have to work with them.
Right.
So if you inbuilt a little practicality and just not focus on how much you can save, but also think that, for example, why we buy brands like Mont Blanc or some other brands, because we know these are going to go on for 10 years. So when you take a cost, we divide it per cost per year, and then it actually starts looking cheaper rather than buying a watch every year. So this is one small approach that you can take in terms of your thought process, because genuinely there is no referencing or benchmark like we have in other product classes. Yeah, material maybe जैसे we know cement इतना रुपए किलो, because other companies are there, we have a historical reference point, because the product parameters are the same. Furniture में every furniture is different, the sizing, material consumption, brand, logistics, everything is different. So the right way I feel to look at this is with a little of referencing, averaging, and common sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Always, and also like you said, referencing, checking with people who have, let's say, maybe bought from you in the past.
Correct.
I mean, builders do this, right? You have testimonials or a lot of like people in the market for any service that you want to avail of.
Correct.
The testimonial becomes a way of kind of certifying that yes, we have customers who are happy.
Sure.
But now I don't see, like, if you put a testimonial here on the wall, I'm gonna question the credibility of it. Is that an actual customer or have you just put a placard? So sometimes referencing also helps, as as a kind of brand owner now. You want to establish further credibility. Sometimes you could even openly ask your other clients to give you video recordings
Sure.
or voice notes, or just send photos of uh, where that sofa has been placed in their house. How many years has it been there? I'm just
Correct.
saying that, it's a small thing, but I think reliability and longevity is something that's very important. And
Absolutely.
later after 5 years, you're not going to throw the piece of furniture away, but you might look to overall the entire look and feel, change the fabric, change the leather, and they will come back to you for it. They're not going to
Absolutely.
go somewhere else to do it and save a buck. So I think that's the kind of way to do it. Yeah.
So, Samarth, let's get on to our last and most important question. Today, there is an unlike pre-COVID, and let's define it pre-COVID, post-COVID, right? Pre-COVID, I think we didn't have so many approaches, access points to vendors who are giving furniture or any material. Today, if you see that we are bombarded with n number of vendors and suppliers, primarily because it's a trend up China jao. China mein to this is even more than Italy, because Chinese are also looking hungry for business today. So they give you the catalogs और फिर वो एक्स फैक्ट्री प्राइस भी देते हैं देन देयर इज नो एंट्री बैरियर टू बिकम एन एजेंट यू जस्ट नीड एन इंस्टाग्राम अकाउंट और आपने चाइना जाके 4 वीडियो बना दिया न्यू से ओ आई विल टेक यू फॉर
Yeah.
फर्नीचर शॉपिंग एंड
Sure.
देन you have a lot of new age showrooms that have come up. So there are so many people who are offering you for commercial, residential, bespoke, standard. Out of all these vendors, what are some of the, if you were presented with this challenge, how would you approach in selecting a vendor? And would it be national? Would it be local? Would it be from China? If from China, what are some of the key things you should look at? Because there are a lot of custom challenges, logistical challenges, and after sale challenges when you're importing.
I think there are sort of two responsibilities here, the way I look at. You as a consumer also um, are going to have, let's say you're getting your house done, you're going to have an architect or an interior designer who's doing the house design for you. And then, of course, there are vendors such as you and others in the market where you're actually procuring from. Um, I don't want to take away any responsibility from the designers and the architects and the interior designers, because eventually you as a client have come to us entrusting us with the responsibility of delivering, whether it's your home, your office, or any other space that you've kind of engaged us for. So I think due diligence is very, very important on behalf of the designer before even recommending brands. So I think I would put it that way, that the client should not be exposed or thrown into the water of this big sea of showrooms and the market that exists today, because then you're like a kind of completely lost and you don't know where to begin. And but like you said, one way to begin is, okay, what price bracket are you looking at? What is your budget? But even within that, there are so many options that you're going to be lost. So I think the responsibility of designers is very, very important here to actually focus the client's attention to a few brands or a few agencies or a few vendors who would be able to give the client what they're looking for. Um, and coming from the knowledge and further background checks and due diligence that the designer has done with that vendor. We have been working with vendors for over 20 years. The way we work with our clients is the way we like to work with our vendors. We build relationships. We don't build project-based transactional, relationships. We
Correct.
are building relationships over time because I know that when you're building a long-term relationship, you're also entrusting that much responsibility equally to the vendor. If a vendor believes that you're going to, that if the vendor believes that there's value in you, the vendor is going to treat you also very differently.
Correct. Absolutely.
And not just for scale, for long-term work. I mean,
Correct.
let's face it, how many corporate large interiors are we doing? I mean, we're doing 3 or 4 projects, but every project's not going to be 2 lakh square feet. You have projects which are smaller. And a bulk of the vendors in the market are catering to smaller projects as well. So I think it's very, very important for architects, at least for myself. What we do is that all the vendors that we work with, we have done factory visits. We are looking at their quality processes, the kind of system and production chain that they have set up, what kind of output are they manufacturing, what kind of quality checking are they doing on their end, what kind of warranties and guarantees are they giving. Because this goes back to that discussion about ki kaun sa plywood use kiya.
Correct. Correct.
Right. So uh, we have to do go that extra mile as
Correct.
designers
Correct.
to build a list or short list of vendors who firstly we are comfortable in recommending.
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, a client is completely unaware, might have no idea about what the market is, right?
Correct.
But that's why they've come to you.
Absolutely.
So that's not a responsibility that we should take lightly
Absolutely.
and taken for granted. That now the clients come to us, whatever we say they will do, so that's what it is. So I think the designers are very, very important in this role. And that's how we have identified our trusted vendors over many, many years. And it's not like we've closed the doors for considering new vendors.
Yes.
New vendors are walking in every single day, but we're not rushing into anything. Just to say that, that वो एक बार होता है ना कि एक बार काम करते हैं फिर आप देखो कैसा है.
Correct.
But even that first project, we need to build confidence with that vendor to see that, okay, I will recommend you to my client. I think that is very important.
Because you're putting your reputation on the line.
Correct.
That's true. Like, I really agree. I'll tell you something very interesting about Mr. Samarth. When I first approached him to work with him for some of his large projects, you know what he said is, yes, you might be very good, your products are great, you have great infrastructure, but you know what? I have relationship for 20 years with all my vendors. I've been very happy with that. And in fact, I was very happy to hear that, Samarthji, because it takes a lot of efforts to, execute the projects, and someone appreciating that and really growing the relationship is something I've not seen in the market. So I congratulate you for that approach. But at the same time, you gave a very important point. Actually, में ज़्यादा दिमाग लगाने का जरूरत नहीं है, because what you need to do is due diligence. You rightly pointed out that the core center of it is that yes, the designer is there because the customer can't get into so much of nitty gritty and checking, fact checking, right? But when you trust a designer, you need to do due diligence, because unfortunately, where we have a set of experienced professional designers like you, there is a new grade of designers who have certain practices where they have a very biased approach and opinion towards certain vendors, which may or may not be either capable or suitable for a particular project. So that is where clients due diligence process is very much required. Instead of them finding, of course, the architect has to recommend. But coming, so guys, what I think a common way through this process is what Samarthji has recommended is having a clear due diligence process. Like, whenever you're presented with certain set of vendors, you should visit them, you should inquire, you should look at the past work. Testimonies are very important. I'm telling you, testimonies are very, very hard to get, because this is our profession or line of business is sort of like thankless job at the end of the project. You can't really expect appreciation, but these are some of the ways that you can check. And with this, can you give us like one or two red flags, very prominent red flags that you see in a vendor, and this by isko chhod hi do, whatever Prait is giving, whatever he's giving. Any one or two red flags would you like to point out?
Well, I think in terms of red flags, one immediate red flag for me is someone who walks in through the door and be like, आपको जो चाहिए, जितना चाहिए, कभी भी चाहिए, मैं दे दूँ. Correct? So that is one approach where, boss, everything is possible.
Yeah.
And I'm the jack of all trades, and we can give you whatever you want. You name it, and we'll do it. So that's the first red flag for me, because as a serious uh, person, forget a professional or a vendor. I'm talking, Rohan, anyone who is doing their work diligently and with sincerity knows what goes into getting good at what they're doing.
Correct.
If today everyone could do everything and still be as good as the guy who's doing one thing very well, then everyone would be doing it.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, that's one big red flag. The second is, of course, and this is getting a little bit technical, but in terms of payment terms, if someone is like, nahi, aap sirf in furniture, if you say that I'm okay with a 20% advance and you give me 80% on delivery, again, that's another red flag.
Correct.
Bespoke companies are not doing that. They're asking for 80% upfront and 20% on delivery.
Wow.
What that shows is that you're not delivering something which is already sitting in stock, and you're delivering. That shows it very clearly.
Correct.
Versus a order which is made to order. Again, I'm not saying made to order in terms of customization of size and profile. but you're guaranteed that it's not a piece that has been built and is lying in the factory for 6 months and then is, upholstered and sent to you.
Correct.
So that's another red flag that we should be aware of, and we have to sensitize the client also for it. Like furniture is a lead item for which you need to pay upfront
Correct.
to get good furniture.
Correct.
Because a
Absolutely.
client will also be like, "Arey boss, why am I paying 80% before, like 6 months before I'm getting the furniture?"
Correct.
But that's something that goes towards building a quality product
Quality
for you.
product.
So I
Absolutely.
would say these couple of things are important to keep track of.
Wonderful. I think you have given a very, very, in brief, you have given some of very important points that, people can consider while sourcing. And I thank you. I think the depth of what you have said is something once someone sees this video with patience can connect a lot of dots of what is happening. So I really thank you for
No, thank you
giving
for
us
having
this
me.
time
It's
for
been
this
good.
podcast.
It helps also, I mean, these things also help us re-clarify our thoughts and our processes. And I mean, always there are takeaways for me also in these kinds of conversations. So I'll go back to the studio and I'll think of something more in a better way. So yeah,
No, it's
good
great
to have.
because see today what I have realized in my work experience being in furniture is that there's a lot of disconnect in awareness.
Yeah.
Also, what are the good practices that one should follow? A lot is not communicated, and I think people like me and experts like you can really help people get a perspective, if
Yeah.
not more,
Correct.
on these subjects because it's like your life's work or fortune that you're investing in making any property,
Yeah.
so it directly becomes a very important part of your life, a very important event of
Right.
your life. So Samarji, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks,
I
Rohan.
I really appreciate your time and I look forward to more podcasts because I know there is a lot of knowledge you can still share with people maybe sometime in future when you have your time. I wish you all the best with your projects and
Yeah.
your company. And
Thank
thank
you,
you
Rohan.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thank you.